Ready? At the sight of the crowds, his heart was moved with pity for them, because they were troubled and abandoned, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is abundant, but the laborers are few. So ask the master of the harvest to send out laborers for his harvest." The Gospel of the Lord. Jesus sees us suffering. Just think about the crowds in today's gospel. There they are, moping around, not knowing where they are or where they're supposed to go. They have no direction. They're lost. They lack any sense of meaning in life. They're sheep without a shepherd. All there is to do is to pray. Pray that someone will rescue them from their confusion, their loneliness, their abandonment, and despair. They're that suicidal man, that George Bailey, who looks over the bridge into the deep blue waters. That man who says, "God, I'm at the end of my rope. Show me the way." That same man who can see no reason to go on, who hears and feels nothing except a fierce winter wind that pelts his numb skin with snowflakes. There's nowhere to go, nowhere except down. And isn't this sometimes us? We might not be on the top of a bridge, but we've all experienced some situation where things don't seem that they could get much worse. Maybe it would be better to just quit, to give up. We need help. Jesus sees this. He sees us suffering. But luckily, Jesus picks out people to help us. They're the disciples in the gospel, those ones who are sinful, who are weak themselves. People like Peter, a man who would lie about ever knowing Jesus, Matthew, who's nothing but a tax collector, and Judas, a man who would betray Jesus altogether, who would get Christ killed. So why does Jesus even waste his time picking out other people to help, especially when that person might mess things up? Why pick the crippled to help the crippled? It seems like he should just do all the work himself. After all, he is God. He has unlimited power. It was him, after all, who made the moon and the sun and the stars. It was him who made the day and night, weeks and months, years and decades, centuries and millennia. He's shown us that he can do whatever he wants. Anything at the snap of a finger. A snap which breaks up a ball of matter and sends it shooting in all different directions until we end up with billions of galaxies and a planet which somehow contains water and intelligent life. If Jesus did all of this, it would seem that he could help out a measly, lonely crowd by himself. But that's not how things work. He appoints others. For instance, we don't see Jesus Christ walking across a stage to receive his medical degree. We see Tom, that man who, after being called by name, anxiously walks towards the dean to receive a paper which gives him the okay to do something that he once couldn't. So yes, Jesus doesn't do it all on his own. He calls his people by name and then works through them, even if those people aren't perfect. Tom struggles with asthma himself, and there he is. He's been chosen to help people who deal with that same condition. Yes, Jesus picks the suffering for the suffering. He picks out people to help us. And these people heal our wounds. It's like the 12 disciples. They look around, and what do? They see all these lonely, abandoned, and miserable people, and they run to them, curing their 105-degree fevers, healing their sores, driving away all demons and all sorts of evil. It's that priest in the confessional, who looks at us with compassion. All the while, our face is downcast, our body is tense. We're going through in our head what we're going to say, hoping that we can remember it all, hoping that we can say it just right, hoping that this priest isn't going to judge us, hoping that we're contrite enough, hoping that God is merciful enough to forgive us. Seeing nothing before us but a whole bunch of garbage, all the messiness and chaos in our lives, and then we see the joy of Christ's face. That joy present in the priest as he waves his hands down and across and says, I absolve you. What was once an overbearing guilt, now gone in an instant, a conscience once weighed down by sorrow, now freed through grace. But is it always that easy? Can people always really heal us? When we've been struggling with depression for years, or had chronic back pain, or lost a loved one that will never be coming back, it doesn't seem like a counselor or a doctor can fix those things. But maybe that's not always where healing comes. Maybe it's an acceptance of what simply is, a willingness to let those people in our lives, and ultimately Christ, to be with us in our suffering, to encourage us to simply let those murky waves wash over us, to help us to know that when nothing's going right, it's still okay. We need to turn to those people in our lives who can help us realize this. The good news is that those people are out there, those people who heal our wounds. And above all, Christ is there too. He's here. Let's turn to him and never look away.